Hello, I'm Chris. Let's talk about some list formatting. Oh yeah. So of course we're going to head over to not there, our classic warrior horse site that we all have, where we plan out our battles and so on. And the warrior horses, of course, are always working on murder, destruction, and attacks, right? And as a part of that, they like to get together. Community is very important for the warrior horses. And so they put together war parties, right? So if we head over to our war parties list, which of course, if you have a war party, you would of course manage that inside SharePoint, as they do, right? So this is just a way where they can list who is a member of, which battle herd, and so on, and the type of attack they're planning to do. Are they going to ambush? Are they going to do a direct assault? And this is cool, right? But what if I wanted to do a few things where, like I want to volunteer, right, to be a part of this, or, like add my name to the list, or I want to, launch some flows, all that kind of stuff. And so I want to talk about a couple of exciting features. We mentioned them maybe once or twice before, but there's these things called quick steps. So if you're not familiar yet, there's this quick steps option here. And I mean, I've already defined several, which we will talk about. So for instance, if I wanted to volunteer, right, we take a look at that. All I'll say is a set of value. Right, and I'll say, in the warriors column, I want to append the current user, whoever that is, right? But I can also overwrite it, right? I could remove them, and so on. And I can even display it conditionally, right? So I can say, obviously, you don't want to volunteer if they've already got it, right? So if they're already in there, don't show it, right? And we do the same thing for the opposite. So that's pretty cool. We can create these quick steps, and I'll say, if we're going to create a new quick step, or you can see these options here. If I'm on a document library, I'm going to have 2 or 3 more. Like I'm going to have a move to, like a different folder or library, or I'm going to have a copy to, which is, what it sounds like. And then, of course, if you've got approvals turned on, something like that will show up here. I expect these to grow, hint, hint, right? But all of these are very cool. And I will say all of these can be done through list formatting. But why do list formatting if you don't have to, right? Well, I'll show you why. So if we come in here, one really cool feature that they've added. So normally, right, if I wanted to do the quick step, right, so I would click this and I come up here to integrate, and then all of a sudden my quick steps show up. They do follow those rules, right? So now I can volunteer because I'm not a member of that. Whereas if I selected, say, one I am a member of here, oh, now I can abandon, right? That's very cool, and that's great. I will tell you, if you're writing a document on how to use all these, that's always fun because these things move around. I mean, that's never happened before, right? But that can be very difficult to maintain. So why make this even harder, like by telling people, hey, you got to click the item first, because, oh, where's that option? Where is the abandon? Where is that, right? Oh, you got to select it, right? You got to select just the one you want, so on, right? We've talked about this before. That's one of the reasons you would create a column specifically for a list format. Well, in this case, they actually have a quick steps column. Ooh, fancy. All right, so if we click that guy, we'll name this guy volunteer. And then, of course, we're going to just be able to pick our quick step. Or maybe we aren't. I've had all sorts of fun with this interface, just so you guys are aware. I'm going to refresh. Let's try that again. And let's add a new column called quick steps. There they are. Okay, so I can choose volunteer. And let's see if I can name it now. Volunteer. There we go. Okay. So now I've got volunteer. I've got some very limited color choices here, right? I can be like, hey, volunteer's green. Sure, why not, right? It's frustrating I can't pick a theme color. More on that in a moment, right? And that's cool. I can hit save. Now I got a volunteer column. All right, let's add another one. Quick steps. Now you'll notice so let's call this one abandon. Oh, yeah. And my quick steps down here, abandon. I could also go ahead and create one right from here. That's cool, but I'm just going to choose abandon. And both of these are just setting values, right? So they're just adjusting that warriors column to include or not include me. So abandon, well, that's going to be bright red, because we're leaving, going AWOL. Perfect. Okay, so now, and you'll see the conditions show up. That's pretty cool, right? I could even add, more. I've got all these other quick steps. You can start to imagine, as cool as this is, right, and the fact that it works, right, I can volunteer for this guy. Ooh, I'm in there now. And now I can abandon, right? That's very, very cool. And you can imagine, you can see I just did that in about 2 minutes. I literally created these quick steps during the other demos. Right, so they're very easy to make. And that's cool, right? But if you start to have a lot of these and you've already got a pretty wide list, you can imagine these get out of hand a little bit, right? Uh, but you like the interface, being able to edit those, right? It's very nice to have a UI for that, not have to go directly in and write the custom row action with the set value and know the internal column names, right, and the values you want. Now, there's still plenty of use cases for that. For instance, when we're doing set value, we can't do dynamic values, right? It's fixed values. The closest you can get is you can say me, right, or current user. But you can't like set a text value and write it all out, and change all that. So that's a perfect use case where you might want to do that. But this is cool, right? But what if I want to work with that a little better, right? So if I can add a column that I've hidden, right, which is action, we'll go through this format, right? So now I've got an action column where I'm actually taking all of those quick steps and we're going to be able to execute those quick steps. So let's take a look at that. Format this column. Let's see if we can make this a little bigger, advanced mode. Let's make that as big as we possibly can. Let's see if this thing will drag out. Oh, first let's drag it out. Come on. I gotta tell you that. Did they take away the dragging? I've been having trouble with that as well. Very sad. Okay, well, here's our tiny little window. You can see it. It's perfect, right? Okay, so I'm using an extension. I've mentioned it a number of times here, but it's the SP Formatter. It's an extension available for both Edge and for Chrome. And if you can add that, it does things like giving you this bigger window, automatic previewing, and so on. But the key thing to note here is I've got this custom row action now, but the action is execute quick step, right? So I can then tie my formats directly into that quick steps editor, right? So if you've got people that created quick steps or you want to let them edit those later, right, and you just want to create a nice format for them, then all you need is this rule template ID, which is just a handy dandy GUID, right? Where do you get that? Well, I've only got real one option. If someone comes up with a better one, let me know. What I'm doing is in DevTools, I've got this other extension called SP Editor, which I highly recommend, right? Again, free for Chrome and Edge, right? But if I open up the DevTools and I go to the SharePoint tab, which is part of the SP Editor, I can come down to List Properties, and then I can select my list. War Parties, where are you? Right there, my War Parties list. And look how easy that is to read. Perfect. So these are the quick steps properties. So this is where everything about your quick step is stored. Right? This is what makes them move around with the list and do all these other cool things. But what I'm looking for is these rule template IDs right here. Right? You can see this is that 3E89. Catchy. I think I've got that tattooed. Right? And I've got it over here. So this is where I'm getting those. Another thing you can also see is if we look at the actual columns are defined in here. Somewhere, where's that column? Right, you can actually see the column definition for some of these. Anyway, there is a class that gets set when you're setting these colors. You can set that. You can override that here to do theme colors. All right, if you don't really want to jump into the list format and you're like, this is so much easier. I don't know about that. Right, but the idea here is I copy out the rule template ID. You could also do this by querying with PowerShell, right, or PNP.js. You don't have to use this. Or you can even go directly to the API for the list properties right there and pull it out of the XML. Right now, I don't know of an easier way to get those. Hopefully that will come soon. But once you've got the rule template ID, then you can really start to play with it, right? So now I've got this set up. And now you'll notice I've got a few things that are better automatically. For instance, I don't have to have two big columns for volunteer, right, and abandon, right? I can just abandon directly here. Hey, that's cool. And now I can volunteer, right? And all I'm doing is calling the quick steps. So all I did was put that rule template ID, and then whatever the rules for that will be executed. Same for this one. So this was a discussion, right? It really just opens up a mail to link, right? I can do that. Or this one, which is an execute a flow, right? So I've got a execute flow quick step. I can still set the top here. I can still set the button text, right? Once it connects here, ooh, nay, right? And that's cool. So I can still do these kinds of customizations and launch my flow. But you'll notice because I've got multiple flows, right? So that's for a direct assault. But what about an ambush? Well, I can do an ambush, right? And you'll notice it pulls up a different flow entirely. So you can imagine if you've got a status item. Oh, well, I apparently haven't actually approved that yet. There we go. Now I can still nay, right? And that's cool. But the idea here is I don't make people come up here into integrate, go to flows, right? Wait for it to load, and there they both are, right? I don't want both of them to show up because it only should be for when it's direct assault. So for whatever reason, these parts don't, these aren't the actual, these are the flows, so they don't have those rules. But my quick step for that flow does have the rule, right? It's super easy for everyone to understand, right? I'm sure all your non-technical users will be thrilled to know all those rules. Well, instead, right, just make it easy by, if we take a look at that flow or the format here, give me that look, yeah, much cooler. All right, that's that bigger. If we come down, way down here to these, right, so these are both, it's just a custom action again. Now I could always do this directly, we've shown it before, where if I want to settle that, but execute flows are especially obnoxious because you have to use the action params and you have to escape your JSON inside your JSON for JSONception. It's a mess, right? So this is actually far easier to edit this inside a quick step and then just link it here, right? And then I'm doing some cool display things. But the other thing you'll notice is, unlike this, where it just goes away, right? And if you've got only one of these happen to be one or the other, so it's a little easier, right? But what if I don't want to let you, execute this flow until you've got someone volunteered? Same with the discussion, right? Well, I could just hide it, but then your users are calling you like, where's that dang button, right? And you have to explain it again and rewrite your document. Or I could just disable it, right? So it's always present. It's always going to be the right action they need to take based on the status of the list item. And they don't have to think about it. They know the process, and that's all they're worrying about is whatever the actual work they have to do. For instance, murdering their enemies, right? Or, planning a meeting in HR, whatever it is, right? Or planning a meeting in HR because you've murdered your enemies. All of this is related, right? It can all work together. But by taking advantage of this, I can also then go edit those quick steps, right? Without having to, whoa! Oh, I went over to Microsoft Lists. Silly. Nobody wants that. All right, so if I come in here, right, and I go back up to my quick steps, go to my quick steps editor, right? Because I've got this nice setup, I could even let whoever edit these things. It doesn't have to be me, right? So I can come in here to attack, and I say, hey, that's the flow ID, but instead of direct assault, where I want to say, murder mine enemies, right? Just really emphasize what we're trying to accomplish here. Make it easier for the end users to understand what's happening. But they notice I didn't have to touch that format at all. And so if I come in here to a direct assault and I click that, right, hey, there it is. So I didn't have to go in there. I didn't have to edit the JSON, right? So if you can be the JSON editor and let your users be the controllers of the actual actions, right? So if they want to change, hey, I've got to move file action, over to this library, and they come back to you and say, I need to move it to a different one. Well, that's no problem, right? Just show them where the quick step editor is. It's going to be visual. They can pick it, right? It's got a nice file picker, all that kind of stuff. And they have the nice look here. All right. So hopefully that is making some sense. And you can swap these things out. I'm just conditionally showing one or the other on these, right? So kind of like they're doing, I'm using those same rules. So let me just show you that. I'm going a little fast. So let me just format this column one more time. Advanced mode. Get it bigger so we can see it. Okay. So the key to that, right, is I've just got multiple of these icons inside the children here. And all I'm doing is this. I love to do this where I just have a display expression, right? So in this case, I'm saying, hey, if I, or whoever the current user, that's what @me is inside the Warriors email list, right, then don't show this one, right, and then show the other one, right? So that's all that is, just conditionally showing those or not. Now I could do that at the icon level, but I find it even easier just to do it for the full object with the display, because then I can just edit these separately, right? So I don't have to set a... All right, so you get the idea here. I can control how it looks. I can control that experience, but I don't necessarily have to control the logic or tie them explicitly together to make it much harder to edit these formats, right? So it's very similar to like a column formatter reference inside View. It's just a way to make your life easier and the end user's life easier. So I highly recommend it. And that's it for me. Wowee!